Today we have with us a very special guest, Vinayak Pai, MD and CEO of Tata Projects, joining in to tell us what he thinks or he would like to see from this much anticipated budget. Remember, this is the new Narendra Modi government that goes into full gear. The full union budget for FY 2025 will be announced on the 23rd of July, and this is going to be the government's first big economic statement. The industry expectations are largely centered around how the government will resume its path of strategic growth and sustainable development. And no better than Mr. Pai to talk to us about what needs to be done by policymakers, by industry, and of course by consumers as well at end. Mr. Pai, thank you very much for taking the time out to talk to us this morning. The big focus and the big talking point of these expectations is the government's commitment to improve logistics and create robust rural and urban infrastructure. From somebody who represents the industry, from somebody who has seen many budgets, in the past, what do you think is most critical? And as an industry representative, what is it that you're expecting, or what would you like seen in this budget?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm very glad to share my perspective overall about the industry and the budget. I think primarily, even the interim budget hinted towards continuation of the development agenda of basically capex growth, infrastructure growth, and also industrial growth. So I think it's a validation of what the previous governments have been consistently doing, and it will eventually lead to further India moving towards a more manufacturing economy through better infrastructure, so the logistics cost coming down. Make in India initiative will get a further boost and fillip. So I think just a continuation and consistency of the agenda of growth, infrastructure, urban development is what we look forward to as the major highlights.
Right. Mr. Pai, thank you for, just introducing that piece of it for me. One thing that we've noticed over the last couple of months has been that the PSU space and the public sector seems to be in good shape. The problem that is arising in the economy is the private sector at this stage. We aren't very often understanding or hearing about the kind of capex plans that private companies are making. What do you think needs to be done to encourage the private sector to lead from the front now?
I think if from where I sit and I see the private sector capex is growing. In fact, I would say it's growing at double digits. There's a lot of growth. If you look at the steel industry, is investing substantially in capacity addition. The capacity utilization across multiple industries is very strong, above 75%. And, I think that coupled with a lot of focus from multinational global brands and companies to use India as their preferred manufacturing hub is leading to a lot of investments. And, if you look at the sectors like semiconductor, electronics, data centers, and a lot of this, fourth generation manufacturing, as well as the increase in capacity on basic building blocks like cement and steel. I think the public sector capex might be growing silently. Maybe it's not as prominent and you don't get the data as consistently as you get in a central budget, the union budget. But I think that growth is strong, and again, it's based on a very strong policy framework of Make in India.
Right. Mr. Pai, it's always the old economy when you think infrastructure, right? You think roads and railways. That's the first thing that comes to your mind when you're thinking infrastructure, you're thinking budget. But we, as a country, as a nation, we quickly need to jump on the bandwagon of reducing carbon footprint, moving to green hydrogen, battery storage. And I think private players may be able to take the lead in this space. What do you think this budget can do to encourage that as a vertical or a business as a whole?
I think it's a very, very relevant question, and as we have made the commitments as a nation, and the global commitments also coming out of COP28, I think there is a case for rapid acceleration of investments in the green economy. I think sectors like green hydrogen, green ammonia, batteries, is solar panel manufacturing. These are all sectors which are significantly growing at this point in time. So I would say that there have been incentives. For example, the India Semiconductor Mission, the India Semiconductor Policy is promoting a lot of investments in electronics and semiconductors. Similarly, the PLI on green hydrogen, I think had made a good start by the PLI for manufacturing electrolyzers. But I think we will have to further look at investments and having a policy framework for incentives to actually put up green hydrogen and green ammonia facilities. That will be helpful. In addition to that, I think India has done a great job scaling up the renewable capacity, especially on the solar side. At this point in time, I think more than a third of our energy comes from renewable, which is, I think, a very strong indicator and growth. But it needs to be 24/7 available. And that's where I think investments in battery technologies, investment in pump storage hydros, more incentives around this will help rapidly decarbonize and meet the goal which India has and many corporations have. So I think it's a great opportunity to look at in this budget as to the whole, what are the various building blocks for this. And there are many building blocks. I think one of them is the sustainable aviation fuel. For example, Europe, UK and the US have mandates for, sustainable aviation fuel blending. In fact, Europe and UK have mandates of a certain percentage. Europe is 6% by 2030 and UK is 10%. While the US has given green credits to use sustainable aviation fuel, so incentives. So we can learn from all of this and look at what are the various sectors and building blocks for rapidly decarbonizing the economy. There are various opportunities, including green construction, green buildings, more investments of, different type of, material used in construction, technologies used. So I think we have to be more forward-looking, futuristic in terms of sustainably building the economy.
Mr. Pai, the big picture is always made up of small actionables. And I hear you where you say we need to swiftly move and focus, to reduce carbon footprint and incentivize industry to do that. What do you think in terms of actionables could the budget deliver to immediately boost that? So while I get the bigger picture, in actionables, what is imperative at this stage to boost this space?
I think a very strong tracking mechanism might help. For example, when we spoke about green hydrogen, there is a PLI for electrolyzer manufacturer, as I said. So what is the target for converting it into actual green hydrogen capability? So, targets around how much of this is actionable year on year and, put targets for 2030 and, then drive more, look at if it is not happening, why it is not happening. So is it a missing skill gap? Is it a missing technology gap? Is it a missing framework, policy framework, which needs to be further strengthened? So, intense dialogue around this with the industry as to, now these mandates are there. What does it take to actually convert? And then in each of this, put target. And then, what's the next step? What does the industry do? What do the regulators do to make it work better and meet those mandates? So I gave example of green hydrogen. Similarly, the biofuel space, the 2G ethanol. We now have a mandate for 20%. What does it take to get there? We got to 10%, the 10% mandate, I think, ahead of time. So what do we do to get to that? How do we promote 2G? What's the technology framework? Some of the Indian companies who are developing technologies, how can we promote that? How can big corporations sponsor them and, take that forward? I think a more robust tracking mechanism and target setting will help us, actualize what is on the planning stage.
Hi, thank you very much, Mr. Pai. Of course, we will love to chat with you on budget day and see whether or not that wish list gets fulfilled. But until then, good luck and we'll see you soon.